Let's start where I had left. There were brass spittoons on the floor, and across the station a glint of light caught my eye. So the narrator has reached the third level. There were brass spittoons. Spittoons means the container to which you spit on the floor. Across the station a glint of light caught my eye, means the flash of light. Narrator could see the flash of light, the shining of light. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. A man was taking out a gold watch from his vest pocket, an overgarment. So, students, I will be showing you the line that I read with the cursor. He snapped open the cover. He tore open the cover, glanced at his watch and frowned, almost showed anger, got angry. He wore a derby hat. That man was wearing a derby hat, cap, one type of cap having thin beam edge. So that man was wearing derby hat, black 4-button suit. He was wearing black suit with 4-button with tiny lapels. Tiny lapels means in a coat, both the parts of the collar, folded parts of the collar, that are the lapels. So he was wearing such coat with tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar mustache. Big black handlebar mustache on the upper part of the cheek, on both the sides. The hair, the line of hair, that is the handlebar. That is called the sideburns. Okay, and mustache means a large handlebar mustache means the way the kings, emperors were keeping the mustache, large mustache. That man had such mustache. Then I looked around, saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890. When the narrator looked everywhere, he found the people were wearing the dress which actually the people of 1890 were wearing. So students, try to understand it. Means the narrator had reached the place, the third level, where actually the things, the people, the everything, they are belonged to the things which were existing 100 or more than 100 years back, 100 years ago. Means narrator had traveled to the past, the world which was surviving, which was existing in the past, 100 years back. Narrator had gone to such a world. So the people he saw, they had large mustache, and the dress they were wearing those dress appeared just as the people were wearing in 1890s. Similar to the dress people were wearing in 1890. Something I never saw so many beards. So 1980 something I never saw so many beards. Narrator had never seen the number of beards. Sideburns, just as I was explaining, sideburns. Sideburn means the thin row of hair on the upper part of your cheek on both the sides. That is known as sideburns. So the narrator had never seen people keeping such beards, sideburns and fancy mustache in his life. Narrator had never seen such people in his life, keeping mustache, large mustache, fancy mustache, beards and sideburns. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeves. One lady, the narrator saw, she was wearing a leg of mutton sleeve and skirts to the top of her high button shoes. That lady was wearing high button shoes. To the top of it, she was wearing a skirt, the skirts. Back of her, out of the tracks, I caught a glimpse of locomotive. When he came back, he found a sight of locomotive, railway engines, railway, train, a very small Courier and Ives locomotive. That engine was made by Courier and Ives company with a funnel-shaped stack. That train had a funnel-shaped chimney through which the smoke used to come out. So such trains were existing before 100 years. 100 years ago, such trains were existing. The narrator could see such train there. And then I knew, then he could understand where he was. He understood everything. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy to make sure whether he was in his own world or he had traveled to the third level, the other world. He went to the newsboy and glanced, looked at the stack of papers, the bunch of papers at his feet, newspapers. It was The World. The newspaper The World was there. And The World has not been published for years. But in his own world, narrator had known that the publication of the paper, The World, had been stopped. The paper had been stopped. So the publication was not there. But now, at the third level, he sees the paper, The World, that has not been published for years. The lead story said something about President Cleveland. On the paper, the main headline was there about Cleveland. Cleveland, who was also not surviving. I have found that front page since in the public library files. Narrator had found the publication of that newspaper when it was being published in his library, and it was printed June 11, 1894. Means in 1890s, The World newspaper was being published. The narrator had seen its copy in the library, but still now he sees in the third level, he sees the publication of that same newspaper. I turned toward the ticket windows, knowing that here on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States. So narrator went to the ticket counter because he understood in the third level at Grand Central, he had to buy 2 tickets, and with these tickets, he would be able to travel. He and his wife Louisa would be able to travel any part of United States. See the line, please, where I am starting again. So the cursor shows the line. We wanted to go in the year 1894. So narrator says here, he had to buy 2 tickets for he himself and Louisa to travel to any part of United States in the year 1894. In the year 1894, he could have gone that way, purchasing 2 tickets to any part. And I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. So narrator wanted to purchase 2 tickets to go to Illinois. Because he was in third level and he had traveled to the past. Third level was the world which was there before 100 years ago. So the narrator had somehow reached that world, reached that third level, reached that past age, 1890, and all the things he sees, those things belong to that age. He experiences a new world here, that he is explaining. So he purchased 2 tickets to go to Illinois. Have you ever been there? The narrator asks you. It is a wonderful town still. Illinois is a wonderful town with big old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous, large, great trees whose branches meet overhead. those trees whose branches meet overhead. And in 1894 summer, evenings were twice as long and people sat out on their lawns. So in 1894, the summers were long. People were sitting out there at their lawns, the men smoking cigars, talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around. So this was the condition in 1894 in Illinois. Narrator is explaining you. So in a peaceful world, the world was that time very peaceful because that was not the present world, which was full of fear, war, all these things. No peace is there. It was not so. In 1894, the situation was different. That the narrator is saying it was so peaceful in 1894 in Illinois. To be back there with the First World War, still 20 years off, 20 years after First World War, to be there, and World War II over 40 years in the future, means after 40 years, the World War will be there, would be there, means it in between First and Second World War, to travel to that place. I wanted 2 tickets for that. Narrator wanted to purchase 2 tickets to travel to Illinois. The clerk figured the fare. He glanced at my fancy headband. The clerk who had to give the tickets, he looked at the fancy headbands of the narrator because such headbands were not there in his world. So, but he figured the fare and I had enough for the 2 coach tickets. Narrator says that he didn't have enough money. He had enough money for 2 coach tickets. But when I counted out money and looked up, and the clerk was staring at me. When the narrator gave the money, he had only for 2 tickets. When he gave the money, the clerk surprisingly looked at the narrator. Why? He nodded at the bills, checking the notes or coins, currency. He shook his head. That ain't money, mister. That clerk said, that is not the money. Means narrator was giving the currency or the notes which was existing in his own world, the present world. Such currencies were not there before 100 years. So when he traveled to the past and he produced such coins or such notes there, the clerk was not ready to accept such coins or such money. That ain't the money, mister, he said up. And if you are trying to skin me, cheat me, the clerk said to the narrator, if you try to cheat me, you won't get very far, you cannot run away. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him. Saying this, the clerk looked at the cash drawer beside him. Of course, the money was old style bills. Narrator could see the money in the drawer. The money were old style bills, old style coins or notes. Half again as big as the money we use nowadays. Those currencies were half as big as the money that the narrator used in those days, nowadays, and different looking. And those currencies of the past were different from the present day currencies. I turned away and got out fast. Narrator left that place and came out fast. There is nothing nice about jail, even in 1894. Narrator says there was nothing nice about jail. Why did he say so? He means to say that if the clerk understood that the narrator was trying to cheat him, then he might make him report the police and he would be arrested, go to jail. And jail was not the nice place even in 1894. Narrator means to say so. And that was that. I left the same day. The same day the narrator left the third level. During lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank. During the lunch, he took out the dollars from the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old style currency. Then he went to buy old style currency. That really worried my psychiatrist friend. But when Charlie, the narrator's psychiatrist friend, came to know about this, he was worried. You can buy old money. See the line just I am reading now, cursor shows. You can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium. Just as you get the foreign exchange, you have to pay some money for that. The same way, if you want to get some old currencies, you have to pay a premium. The narrator says this. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills. He got only $200 instead of in exchange of $300. But I didn't care. Narrator didn't care. Why? Because eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. Eggs were very cheap in 1894. Means he wants to say the things were cheap, not costly that time. That's why I did not worry. But I have never again found the corridor that leads to the counter and to go back to the third level at Grand Central Station. But when the narrator wanted to go back again to the third level at the Grand Central Station, he didn't find the same path, the corridor which was leading to the counter to the third level at Grand Central Station. Although I have tried often enough. Narrator again many times tried enough to go back to go to the third level at Grand Central Station to the counter, but he never found that path which was leading to the counter onto the third level at the Grand Central Station. He tried very often, but he didn't get that. So students, once again you will read this thoroughly. You will see both the videos and means the previous class video and this video. Then only you will be able to understand. And once again you will read the book so that your understanding will be clear. Thank you.